Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here on this historic night of Edmonton's ghastly 3-2 loss to the St. Louis Blues with Kurt Leavins. Welcome, Kurt.
You just have to shake your head some nights, eh, Dave?
What a ghastly way to lose a hockey game. And lose a loser point. You know, it's not only that they lost the game, Kurt. They were scored on with a minute and a half left, and they puked away the game, and they it was even worse how they lost the game.
And the way they were scored in the last minute and a half was particularly galling.
It was horrendous. It was one of the worst goals against of the year, and we will get into that in our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. Kurt, I will first give the traditional recitation of the grade A shots in the
yes,
game.
Please.
14-12 for St. Louis, with the 5 alarm shots, 8-5 for St. Louis. So the Oilers were not the better team in terms of flow of play. St. Louis had a slight edge. Kurt, what's your good thing?
My good thing is Jack Roslovic. When they went out and got this guy, and he played his first couple of games, I had to keep reminding myself, this guy has not had a training camp. This guy has not had a training camp. It became my mantra. But 3 or 4 games ago, he popped, and he has had a string of consecutive strong games since, including tonight. And I think when you see the goal that Jack Roslovic scored tonight, you're kind of forgiven for going, David Tomashek who? It's because David Tomashek went from having a spot on the league's #1 power play to not even being in the lineup now. And Jack Roslovic has slid into that first unit power play slot like there's nobody's business. And the goal tonight was a very nice one indeed by him. And it was a really nice setup by his fellow wingers on the play, but really all the credit goes to Roslovic on this goal. And there are two things. Everybody's going to talk about how he roofed the puck, and it was a beautiful job of him to put that upstairs in tight. That's a hard goal to score. But the reason he had the time and space to do it is because he got position on his check, pushed himself off his check, which gave him an extra 2-3 feet between him and the defender. The puck came to him and bam, it was in. That's just the sign of a guy who knows where the net is and knows how to position himself properly to put him in a good position to score. It was a perfect pass by Connor McDavid. I mean, right on the tape, but it was on and off Roslovic's stick like that. But he doesn't score that goal if he doesn't gain proper positioning in front of the net. Now that he's got his feet under him, what a pleasure it is to watch this guy. And, coming in, I won't pretend to have gotten a real heavy viewing of Jack Roslovic. But I don't see the plethora of defensive gaffes that some people talk about. Yeah, he's not Bob Gainey, but really his defense is fine. What he has is chemistry with Leon Draisaitl and Vasily Podkolzin. I have a hard time, Chris Knobloch's line shuffling notwithstanding, seeing there be a reason why this line should be broken up anytime soon. It's highly effective. 3 different players. They play 3 different roles. Roslovic is eventually going to lose his power play spot when Zach Hyman comes back, which is going to be either tomorrow or I think more likely on the weekend. But until then, man, has he come into his own. And I can't help but wonder if the Oilers aren't thinking about an extension with this guy, because the way he's going now, I think you want him on this team.
I'm not so sure, Kurt, he'll lose his power play spot. Last year, Corey Perry was on the first unit power play ahead of Zach Hyman. So for second half of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll bet you a cup of coffee he loses it.
I'm just saying I'm not so sure. I'm not saying I would necessarily bet on it, but
yeah.
I mean, he's taken it from Tomasek. I mean, Tomasek was doing okay, but 2 goals in 2 games from pretty hard to beat that.
Yep.
So my wife she started playing hockey at age 45, and she's a forward, and she's like 5'5", 120 pounds. She's always getting pushed out in front of the net. So tonight I showed her repeatedly. We went over the Roslovic play. Roslovic used that leverage of pushing the defenseman and then backing up to gain space for himself. It was a fantastic play by Jack Roslovic.
It was a professional's goal.
Yeah,
right?
and it's the kind of thing, maybe it might be what separates him from, let's say, Savoy and Howard and Tomasek right now, right?
Yep.
He knows how to do that. What a great goal. I mean, that was fantastic. He's looked, it's kind of like, how did they get this guy? And I know it's just a very short sample size of games, like that he's been playing well, like 5 or 6, but he's really playing well, and he looks like he's the perfect fit to play with Leon Draisaitl. Like, and I'm going to get into this later, how long they've been searching for wingers to play with Leon Draisaitl. It's not easy, evidently.
No.
Draisaitl has to trust and respect the player that he's playing with, or he won't give him the puck. It's the truth. And he does. And Roslovic has earned it.
Yeah, he's looking for him, isn't he?
He's just full of tricky little moves on the attack. So when the Oilers signed him, there was talk, there was a lot of hope, because his points per 60 last year was so good. He got 2.1 points per 60 at even strength last year.
Great 5-on-5 player. Yeah.
Which had him tied for 64th in the NHL. And the problem with that stat is sometimes players it's in some ways a full season isn't even enough sample size. You can get a few good games can really distort that number in a positive or positive direction, let's say, for players, or some good puck luck. And you'll have a player who's in the top 100 points per 60, and then he'll come to Edmonton and do little. He won't get it done. So it was a hopeful sign. I mean, that's a really good sign if he's scoring like a top line winger last year in the NHL. But you don't know. And I've seen this happen enough to be leery of getting to saying he's a sure thing when you have that kind of scoring in kind of a, let's say, a secondary role on the team that the player was in. Maybe he just got hot for, remember that one year Sam Gagner had 8 points in one game. That'll help your points per 60 at even strength quite a bit. I don't know if all those were at even strength, those points, but anyway, he has come in and it's like, wow, they have someone. They've got someone who can really make plays with Leon Draisaitl. And it's,
you know what else he is?
Go ahead.
The other thing he is on that line, he's a threat.
Yeah.
Right? Used to be the only guy on that line who was ever a threat was Leon. God love Vasily Podkolzin. He works his ass off, but he's not exactly a threat. I mean, he's not a goal scorer. Roslovic is. That's his calling card, right?
Yeah. And what a goal. Top shelf where grandma keeps the cookies. All right.
I somehow knew you were going to bring that into the conversation tonight.
My homage to the legendary Edmonton skills coach, Jim Fleming, who always likes to say that. Kurt, my good thing is the McDavid line's goal, which was just a really nice passing play and a great finish by Mangiapane. The interesting thing about it is after being like the blender king for the first 9 games in the NHL season, Knoblauch's figured out, okay, that's not working very well. This is a bit of a disaster. And he's gone with 3 lines since that. So it's the last 5 games, 6 games. One of them is the line we've just been talking about, Podkolzin, Roslovic, and Draisaitl. The other one is Savoy, Frederick, and Henrique. And they've been pretty good too. Yep. They're even, they're getting a lot of defensive zone faceoffs, but they're not getting outscored, and they're creating lots of grade A shots, and they're not giving up a lot of grade A shots. So that looks like a line as well. And Trent Frederick made some good skill plays today. Yep. He wasn't bad at all. But the line that they need to get going, obviously, is McDavid's line. And McDavid, he's worked his way to be close to the top scoring player in the league already, but he has not been racking up a ton of points till recently at even strength. Excuse me. He's not combined well with Draisaitl, his usual partner in crime, just to put up points at least. They've been okay defensively together. And in no other combination. So they've been going with this combination of McDavid, Mangiapane, and RNH for some time now. And it hasn't worked that well. Before tonight, they were getting outshot, and I don't know what they did tonight, but they did get 1-0 on goals, I think it was, for that line. I don't think they were out for a goal against. Oh no, they were out for a goal against. McDavid was out for that second St. Louis goal. So maybe they were 1-for-1 in goals tonight. But they did score. They did connect on a beautiful goal with a great passing play. And that's what I would expect from this line, is great combination passing and some expert finishing. Because all three players can pass and shoot. They should be able to succeed. Maybe there's you might say, well, they're missing some grit on that line. Like, who's going to crash and bang? So maybe in the end, this line's not going to work out because of that. And when Hyman comes back, maybe Mangiapane gets bumped down to the third line. That's likely. But that was a great goal that they scored tonight. And they, players who can, with that amount of skill, who can pass and shoot, should be able to regularly score at even strength. So it was nice to see them do so.
Well, if you think of the strength of the Oilers' second line, what do they have? Well, they have an elite playmaker who also happens to be a 4-time 50 goal scorer, but he's a terrific distributor of the puck, maybe the best in the NHL. And on one flank, you have a goal scorer. On the other flank, you've got a grinder.
Yeah.
Right? They really have all the ingredients you should probably need to have an effective line. Whereas that first line, while they're all good NHL players, it is a bit light. I mean, no one will ever call Connor McDavid a soft player. Mangiapane plays bigger than he is, but he ain't Pat Maroon. I do think they're missing some
Zach
of that
Hyman.
grunt play that I think Zach Hyman will bring them when he's back.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. I guess Savoy will probably get bumped down. And it'll be Mangiapane, Henrique, and Frederic.
Although you were right to point out the play of that line tonight. When you think of it, Henrique, Savoy, and Frederic are all very responsible defensive players. Like Savoy, for his age, is a very responsible defensive player. I really like that part of his game. Now, on one hand, that makes him a candidate to play in the fourth line because he can pick up that checking role. But it would be a bit of a shame if you separate him from Henrique, because Henrique and Savoy seem to have some chemistry. So
it's interesting with Hyman coming back. And I'll just hold off on this because it's lines
coming.
I was just going to say, I wonder if Thomas gets another game, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Kurt, what is your bad thing?
Well, my bad thing is the 3-2 goal. And of course, it was bad on multiple levels. Not only was this a game that the Oilers didn't outplay St. Louis, but they had a lead, and I thought they had the game reasonably well in hand. Well, we all know what happened, and it ended up 2-2. But then to appear as if this game is going to overtime and you were going to get a loser point at the very least. This is a good overtime team. There's a reasonable chance that you'll get both points, right? But then to be scored on in the last 90 seconds, that's tough in any situation. So there's the one thing. The second thing, though, is the way in which the goal was scored. Now, I'm going to cover off the play on the defenseman, and I'll let you chime in and talk about the forwards on the play. To start with, when you're the Edmonton Oilers and you know you have a chance to get a single point and go to overtime, I believe you need to be in a solid defensive posture in the last 90 seconds. But I felt that on that play, both Bouchard and Ekholm were really passive on their own blue line. I thought they backed in too far too soon, and they just softened and allowed the Blues to get a foothold in the zone. That's the first mistake. The second mistake is when the shot comes from the point. I mean, there's all kinds of traffic in front, and neither Ekholm nor Bouchard seem to be doing much about that. I'm surprised Calvin Pickard saw that puck at all.
He was screened by Ekholm.
He absolutely was, right? But he still made the first save, which in a
Yeah.
case like that, a shot through traffic, that's all you're asking your goalie to do is make the first save, right? So he kicks out that first one, but the rebound is a sitter. So you look at the two defensemen, and Ekholm is the furthest away from the puck and is at least standing beside his man. Then you look at Evan Bouchard, who not only isn't standing by his man, he inexplicably moves away from his man and makes no apparent effort to take his man's stick. And of course, what happens? Said man puts the puck in the net. It's 3-2. The game's over. Now,
It was horrendous.
yeah. Now, if you want to chat about the forwards, because there was a lot of mistakes on that play, as you say.
Well,
But then I want to come back and talk about, because I want to talk about varieties of mistakes, because this isn't the classic Bouchard mistake. So
okay, because I've been defending Bouchard, not on this play. That was horrendous.
Yeah.
Lack of concentration and soft as butter and horrible. Like there's just, you can't have that.
No.
You cannot have that. But I will say this, that to go back to a previous debate that you and I have had about Draisaitl, they're coming right through the center ice zone. And the job of the center is to slow down the player rushing up. I think it was Shen rushing through the middle of the zone. Not exactly a speedster, but Draisaitl just does not skate. And if you want Exhibit A in my argument about why Leon will not be deserving of the Conn Smythe this year and isn't deserving of it, period, it's the play in overtime, the other game, can't remember who it was now, where he turned away from the guy and it was the Rangers with JT Miller in the neutral zone, and he does the same thing. He just stops skating. His job is to get on Shen and to slow him down and to direct him to the boards, not skate right up the middle of the ice as fast as he can skate. And if the defensemen are backing in, they shouldn't have been, but part of the reason you back in is because someone's coming at you fast.
Yep.
And Leon's got to get on. Now, Podkolzin's also there. He loses that battle too. But there's no goal. If Leon Draisaitl heads that off at the pass, checks properly, checks in a fundamental way. There was two fundamental errors of fundamental defensive play between Bouchard and Draisaitl on the play. To me, they were both really bad. And they both cause, not as directly Leon Draisaitl's mistake, but again, there's no play for St. Louis there if he gets on Shen and drives him wide. And I think it's as bad in terms of fundamental play as Bouchard's mistake.
Well, you know what? I think that's a fair assessment of that play. And I'll add in, and I'm a major league fan and defender of Leon Draisaitl, but that wasn't his only poor play in the middle of the ice tonight, because he just waved at Justin Falk as well when Falk went up the middle for a grade A shot. Like he just went right by him like he wasn't there. So I do believe that he is a potential top 3 forward in the league, but he certainly wasn't tonight. I agree with that.
He can be when he wants to be. Like when
for sure.
He's a ball on defense when he wants to be, but he just it's game 14 St. Louis.
Yeah.
And, that's the truth.
I just want to finish up this.
Go ahead
before before you get to yours, because I want to come back to Bouchard, because it's easy to say, it's another mistake by Evan Bouchard, but this isn't the same thing. This will sound like I'm defending Evan Bouchard, but actually I'm pointing out why this mistake tonight was such a horrendous one. Most of Evan Bouchard's mistakes come on turnovers. Why is that? Well, you can fairly criticize that maybe sometimes Evan lacks, a little bit of intensity. Well, people will say, look, it's the coolness of his head that allows him to sit back and make those plays. And you have to live with a few of those because it's mostly a net gain. So let's say you buy that. Well, keep in mind, Evan Bouchard plays a lot. He's going to have more turnovers. He has the puck a lot, and he plays with possession players. That's going to contribute to turnovers. And Evan Bouchard can see plays at ice surface that mere mortals cannot. And I'll say this till the cows come home. What you and I can see up in a press box is different than what a player can see in the ice, and it's the same for when we watch games on television. And so I have time for some turnovers by Evan Bouchard, because when you play his kind of game with the kind of players he plays, you're gonna have some. Here's my result, though. This wasn't that. This was a combination of a mental error and a physical error. So it was a dumb and a lazy mistake, is what I'm really trying to say.
Even if, let's say, so Ekholm was going to his man in the slot. I think he was worried about a tip maybe there. So if you're defending Bouchard, you're trying to get into his head. What is he doing? You might think, well, he's kind of fronting the player,
but he wasn't. If he was, that would have been great. He
was kind of siding. Well, on the initial shot, Kurt, is what I mean from the
on the initial shot. Yeah, so that's fair.
He's kind of fronting at that point. But after you're fronting, there's a player right there, and your job, you have to know, like, it's just such basic hockey. Just pick up your guy, lift his stick, box him out. It is such a basic, fundamental defensive play, and the brain glitch that happens there. And this is what worries me about the Oilers, Kurt, and it's a big reason I think they have never won the Stanley Cup, is they don't bear down in terms of fundamental defense in the regular season, and when they have to in stressful games, it falls apart. Their best players make fundamental defensive mistakes, and they lose the hockey game. It's not the only reason they lose, but there's a tendency to let's say, McDavid and Draisaitl and the best players on the team off the hook, I think, for losing the Stanley Cup. But it's them also who, in those big moments, because in the regular season, and it's not so much McDavid, who is a fairly strong fundamental defensive player, but certainly Bouchard and Draisaitl, they make fundamental defensive mistakes too often in the regular season, and they're too casual about it, and they don't bear down, and they don't take a huge amount of pride in never making them, and then it slips over to the playoffs. And if it continues, they may never win the Stanley Cup, because they're not, in the big moments, able to shut down that other team when they absolutely have to do so. And this is what happened tonight. Like, this is what's been happening all season long. The Oilers get a lead and they're giving up the lead.
To borrow an old newspaper term, I have a brickbat and a bouquet for you on that comment. The bouquet is, I generally agree with your view. There is a reason why this club blows leads. It's because they give it away. Yeah. It's pure and simple, right? Now, I'm not interested in putting Evan Bouchard and Leon Draisaitl in the same conversation when it comes to defensive abilities. Leon Draisaitl got Selke votes last year, David, and you and I will disagree with that till the cows come home. Yeah. But tonight we won't, because in this game, your assessment is correct.
He had one of those games, and maybe
he did. I graded him a 4 tonight.
I was talking to one of my friends at Vintage Hockey today. We have a coffee, or some people have a beer after we play, and he was he made an interesting comment about Darnell Nurse. How you can get too focused on it. If you notice something wrong with a player that starts to bug you, we all have a tendency, I think, as fans, to start to focus too much on that player and looking for that mistake. And yep. Guilty as charged on Draisaitl. I'm looking for Leon to freelance, to loaf, to be casual on defensive plays, probably too often. I will wear that, but maybe not tonight.
You don't have to tonight. You have an excuse.
Yeah, he did make a number. Let me just see what I got him at. 6 major mistakes on grade A shots again.
And he was down in, what was he? I think he was in the 30s in faceoffs tonight, which is very rare for him.
A couple of those were on faceoff losses, I think, that he lost.
Agreed, but he was 35%. So even with those, he was below 50, which is unusual. Adam Henrique, again, he was 82% on the dot tonight.
He's really playing well, Henrique.
He is.
Yeah. It's fantastic to see. Yeah, it's great. Like, they need Adam Henrique to play well. and that was a big decision they made, right? To go with Ryan McLeod, to go with Adam Henrique over essentially Ryan McLeod.
You bet.
And it's hard right now. It's looked like it's paid off okay for the Oilers. So Ryan McLeod's a pretty good player though too. All right, my bad thing is giving away the lead, and it was done in a weird way. Well, the McDavid takes a penalty, and then there's a power play goal, which frankly was a hell of a shot.
Yes.
It's like when Leon Draisaitl scores from that spot. Is anyone really at fault? Like you could blame, like, Bouchard didn't block the shot and Pickard didn't block the shot.
Yeah, and
But
Savoy
it's
didn't get his
like,
stick in the pass, but
it's almost like, yeah, they're passing it around kind of the outside. It's an outside shot. Like, you don't even have to penetrate the zone on that kind of thing. If you nail that one-timer shot from the outside, it's kind of a perfect goal in that you don't really need the other team to make a mistake. You can just score.
Yep.
And it wasn't even on a cross-seam pass. It was just a good pass. And I don't think it was a cross-seam pass.
not a pure cross seam. It wasn't. No, it was kind of, it was a diagonal. Yeah.
Diagonal pass. So
yep.
2-1. All right. So because up until then, I'm thinking, okay, the Oilers are up 2-0. There's 5 minutes left in the second period. Just get out of this period. Just get out of this period 2-0, and you'll win the game. And it looked like they were going to do it. And then, no, not so much. Then there's that. But the next goal was really a cluster frack. It's hard to. It was one of those weird goals where a lot goes wrong all at once. They're coming down the wing, St. Louis, and the guy kind of pulls up and finds a player who's in the middle. And I think that it was probably McDavid who should have stayed in the zone defense. There was 4 players, and he was closest to the middle of the ice. But McDavid got drawn to the puck, which he thought, I think, Emberson was going to win the puck. He was going to give puck support. So it's not necessarily a bad decision for McDavid, but he does get drawn over there, and he doesn't do a stop and start to get back to Broberg. And he wipes out Emberson, I think, or Emberson wipes out.
Oh, Emberson blew a tire. He caught a bit of Kulak's stick.
Oh, is that what happened? And then the play goes through Podkolzin. Like, the play's passed from the boards to Broberg in the slot, which starts causing the chaos. So that initial shot is what I'm talking about. Either McDavid or Podkolzin or both are responsible for covering Broberg, who was wide open. And I think it was McDavid. And then there's a very dangerous shot from Broberg. And the rebound goes to the player at the side of the net who's wide open. He's wide open because Emberson by then has blown his tire.
That should be Emberson's check, yes.
Yes, that's right. But the earlier shot, which caused all that chaos, is that's where it breaks down, is leaving Broberg wide open for that shot. And I'm trying to figure out why that happened. And it was just kind of it was a tough play. But I think McDavid, like, if he has a fault on defense, he's over aggressive in the zone and can get pulled out of position now and then in that way. And I think he might have made that mistake, and Podkolzin wasn't able to cut out the pass either. So Broberg gets a wicked shot on net, and then the rebound is put in. So now it's 2-2, and here we are again. The Oilers have given up their lead. They played actually really well. I heard Knoblauch after the game in the third. Until they got scored on, there wasn't a lot going on for St. Louis that whole period.
Yeah, they outshot him 7-4.
I was still sitting there in dread thinking, no, don't let it happen. And then it did. And we've beat that to death. So, Kurt, what is your number?
1,100. The first assist by Connor McDavid tonight was his 1100th point of his NHL career. Going into the game, he was tied with none other than Glenn Anderson. But now he is among the true all-time greats in the league. At the end of the day, and when I say 1,100, that he was the fastest player to 1,100 points.
After Gretzky, Lemieux, and Bossy.
And if you're building a Mount Rushmore of hockey players, Lemieux and Gretzky are on there. And the only reason Bossy isn't is because he got hurt, because he was some kind of goal scorer. Like, he was terrific. So if you're in that company and you're halfway through his career, or 3/5 maybe through his career, you're going to have historic numbers when you're done. It's notwithstanding some of the trials and tribulations of this season so far, he is still some kind of player.
Oh yeah, this season doesn't. I don't even factor it into how. I mean, he's worked his way. He's been playing actually pretty strong two-way hockey all year,
Yep.
and he just hasn't found the right connections yet with line mates at even strength. We were talking about Roslovic, and my number is 16. We were talking about Roslovic, how he might be the fit, and it got me wondering earlier today about how many players have we brought in over the years that we were hoping would fit in with McDavid or Draisaitl. And that's either like a real big hope or kind of like even like it was kind of mentioned or in the back of your mind that so this year there's kind of like 6 guys who have been mentioned as possible top 6 forwards. Trent Frederick, who actually started out the year in the top 6, Matt Savoy, Jack Roslovic, David Tomasic, Isaac Howard, and Andro Mangiapane. So there's 6 guys in this category this year, and we'll see. Roslovic is looking like he's going to do it, but we'll have to see about that. And there's a chance Mangiapane might, and the 2 younger guys. But it looks like Tomasic to me is kind of worked his way maybe out of this running. Like I'm not sure. And Frederick, he doesn't strike unless he changes his game. Like he's a third line hockey player.
I think you or I always thought he would be a really good bottom 6 forward for this team, right? I never saw him as a top 6 guy, so I'm not disappointed that he's not there now. It's
like it was Bowman's idea or Knobloch's idea. I think it's probably Bowman's idea to give Frederick a chance in the top 6. So anyway, there's been 6. I counted 16 guys over the years, and I'm just going to quickly list them. So these are some of them were kind of faint hope guys to play with McDavid and Draisaitl, but Patrick Maroon, Milan Lucic, Drake Caggiula, Ryan Strome, Mike Camilleri, Ryan Spooner, Andreas Athanasiou, Joachim Nygaard, James Neal, Dominic Cahoon, Warren Fogle, Evander Kane, Zach Hyman, Connor Brown, Victor Arvidsson, and Jeff Skinner. And I'm going to suggest out of that 16 that 3 of those players fulfilled their promise as success. And I don't include Lucic there because of, it was just so short-lived. But Maroon, Kane, and Hyman kind of fulfilled their potential as brought in and got her done. And the funny thing is, there's also 3 players who were brought in without that kind of expectation, and they've also done well in the top 6. Corey Perry last year, Vasily Podkolzin, and Zach Cassian for a year. So sometimes it's the player you're not expecting. But with all of these players, there was that slight hope, faint hope, or a real hope that they would make it. And it just shows how hard it is, I think, to actually seize that kind of job. And I'm not including the Jesse Puljujarvis and Kailer Yamamotos who were drafted.
I was going to ask about that because I thought Yamamoto was the first player I thought of who had success with Leon, right?
Maybe I'm going to write a post on it. Maybe I'll include the draft picks, like the top draft picks.
I think you should, just for context, right?
Yeah. Because it also they were clearly brought in, drafted with that in mind. I think both Yamamoto and Puljujarvi, for instance. Would you say Dylan Holloway was drafted to be top 6? It's interesting because he was more like drafted maybe to be a third line center. But
I think when Ken drafted him, he was thinking he might be a third line center. If we go back and think about it, so.
But maybe there was hope that he'd be a top 6 winger as well. And
that's fair.
He has become one. All right, Kurt. So the quick. There's a fight now for some roster positions with Hyman coming back, maybe Janmark, and the fight essentially comes down to defense, where at least one of Alec Regula, Ty Emberson, or Troy Stetcher is probably going to be out, either sent to the minors or traded away, or waived and then maybe claimed by another team. And at forward, where Janmark and Hyman are coming back, so it means a fight with, let's say, Howard. Curtis Lazar and Noah Philp also kind of in the running to be moved out. What do you think will happen? What do you think should happen?
Why don't we start with the defenseman, then we'll go to the forwards, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I think all day long that Alec Regula is gonna be in the top 6 on this team. I think as soon as he's healthy, which might be tomorrow, I bet you Amberson comes out and Regula goes in. In fact, I fully expect that to happen. I think Troy Stetcher is a good pro, but at this point in his career, he's an 8. He's been a good soldier for this team, and I think they want to treat him with respect. While I think they would certainly get more for a Ty Emberson, I think Stetcher's the guy that you should move on. I'd be a little reluctant to give up this early on a young defenseman like Ty Emberson. I still don't think you know what he's going to be yet, where you know what Troy Stetcher is, or rather was, because I think we've seen his play drop off this year. So I think that Regula will go into the top 6. I think Emberson will become the 7, and I think the Oilers will look to trade Stetcher rather than give him up for nothing on waivers.
The counter argument, which was kind of posed by Frank Saravalli today, is that if there's cap considerations, they might move. Emberson makes $1.3 million.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't really, if you send him to the NHL, you're still going to have like a roughly, I don't know, 150,000 against the NHL cap. He'd get picked up on waivers anyway. I think if he was sent to the AHL.
Yes,
as would Regula.
Yeah.
So
Regula more so than Emberson, I think.
I think Emberson, Stetcher's the perfect 6'7" defenseman. Saravalli's saying, and Emberson has trade value. I think they could trade Stetcher for future considerations or a low round draft pick. I think Emberson might get maybe as like a fourth round pick, maybe as high as a third round pick if a team was really desperate. More like a 4th round pick is what I'm thinking, Kurt, for Emberson. I think he's really played well. He had a rough start. He's really picked it up. He's
been solid as of late.
Really good 3 months last season. Kind of bookend by iffy play at the beginning and the end of the season. I like him. I don't want to see him gone. I think, and so unless there's really pressing cap needs, and I think if they can somehow move Janmark's contract, that they might not feel the need then to move Emberson's contract to create some cap space. If they can't move Janmark's contract, they might be in a position where they're more kind of forced for cap reasons. And I haven't looked at this closely enough to, broken it down, but they might be looking for cap space at the deadline, accruing cap space. So it's kind of, if they can't move Janmark, they might be in a pickle. Otherwise, to me, it's a no-brainer. You keep Emberson over Stetcher. Emberson's 25, Stetcher's 31. Emberson's a better player. Stetcher's a good defender, so is Emberson, but Emberson's better on the attack than Stetcher is. And so at forward, what do you make of it? What do you think they'll do?
Well, quickly, one more thought on defense. I get where Frank is coming from on that, but on a team that has been rightly criticized for letting its younger prospects and younger players slip through their fingers, seems to me giving up on Ty Emberson right now isn't smart in that context. There's my final thought on defense.
Yeah.
On forward, I think the guy they should move on from is Matthias Janmark. I don't think they're going to do that because I think the coach really likes him. And I do think that Matthias Janmark does bring elements to a pro team that you would want. He's a solid player. He still skates well. If you look at his skating at the NHL Edge numbers from last year, he's still a well above average NHL skater. And remember when the Oilers had that terrific penalty kill run 2 playoffs ago, he was a huge part of that. So it's not, as you know, I hate saying that NHL players are junk because all the players at this level are good. There are useful aspects to Matthias Janmark's game, and coaches like veterans because they know what they're going to get from them. But you know what? I think if they try to waive Noah Philp, they'll lose him. And here's where I will insert the comment that I just made about Ty Emberson, about Noah Philp. Here's a prospect that you found for free, developed, and moved into the NHL, and you're just going to give him away? That smacks of very poor asset management. I'm not the guy that would keep Janmark, but I won't be surprised if they do.
Maybe the coach really does like him. But Janmark's defensive play has slipped every year for the last 3 years. He scored 2 goals last year. He was just okay in the playoffs. I think Noah Philp was a better player than him last year. I have no doubt Noah Philp's a better player than Matthias Janmark will be this year. Just
someone in this organization isn't sold on Noah Philp, and I don't know who it is.
It could be the coach.
Could be.
Philp made a really nice pass into the slot tonight for almost for a goal there. I can't remember who shot it. Was it Mangiapane? But it was really
I think it was Podkolzin.
It was Podkolzin. You're right. It was a good shot.
Yeah.
So, boy, Podkolzin is turning out to be a good hockey player.
So what do you think on the forward front?
They got to get rid of Janmark. They got to find a way to move him out. He can't. He's not good enough to help you win a Stanley Cup this year. He wasn't last year. He didn't help kill penalties. He was slow on the penalty kill. Maybe it was because the penalty kill was out of sync and out of kilter last year. Maybe under this new system, he'll be better on the penalty kill, but I'm not seeing it. I don't see him at even strength helping this team. They need players who can really hit or score now and then. He can't score. He's an okay defender. He's not a top flight defender anymore. I don't think they can move him is the problem. Like, I don't know if another team will take him, but you never know. Ken Holland might take him. You just never know, right? Who's gonna? There's always
because the Kings aren't already old enough. They need Matthias.
Former coach or former GM. And Janmark's had a lot of them. He's got a lot of. So maybe there's someone out there who take him. Maybe they'll have to sweeten the pot a little bit. Move out Janmark. That's clearly the obvious move. I really think Ike Howard has some offensive moxie, but I don't think he's ready for the NHL. And Tomasek also might get moved out. Like, I'm starting to think that. I think Tomasek's been an okay player, but Kurt, you raised this in preseason, his slow boots, and I've seen it. I've seen evidence of it, and I do think that in the end, he's not going to stick because of that in the NHL. And you know what? It's not like he hasn't had a good little run here of games to see what he's got.
Yeah,
we've seen his game, and it's not top 6.
Yeah,
where does he fit in the bottom 6? He's not a hitter. He doesn't score. He hasn't been scoring, so I'm not seeing it.
Yeah. So, but he doesn't require waivers, and if you have an injury, you can bring him back up, right?
Yeah, if he's willing to go to the minors, and maybe he'll want to go back to Europe right away. But if not, then that works, because he's only earned there's no cap hit sending him down either, and he can go. So maybe he'll go. So I could see Howard and Thomas going to the minors as well.
So let's finish up by talking about Isaac Howard here for a second. As you know, my 9 things column on the league weekend, thing number 1 was how I saw a double standard by the coach for how differently he treated mistakes made by Darnell Nurse in one game and Evan Bouchard made in another. Darnell Nurse made 2 mistakes. Yes, they were costly mistakes. He got benched for 7 minutes for it. Next game, Bouchard stunk the joint out and didn't spend a second on the bench. And I saw that as a double standard. I said so in my column. And I don't think that is an unfamiliar refrain to the coach's ears either, because I think he's heard the same message. So tonight, Isaac Howard takes a penalty, and no, it wasn't a good penalty. So what happens? As soon as he gets out of the box, his ass is on the bench. That's great, Chris. That's great. Take a rookie who you're trying to develop and break him down and sit him on the bench and punish him for making a mistake. But it's just fine for your $10 million defenseman to wave at a guy in front and score the winning goal. This is what pisses me off, David. Chris Knobloch's a good coach. They wouldn't have got to the Stanley Cup Finals twice without him. He deserves his credit. But stuff like this bugs me. It's like, the double standards just make my toes curl. I don't know how he can look himself in the mirror and say, I'll show everybody, I'll bench Ike Howard. That's great. You're showing everybody. Tough guy.
Okay. Kurt, I love your passion there. And your column was immensely popular with the readership. It had a massive readership. So you're not alone in thinking this. I wouldn't have compared the Bouchard thing to Ike Howard, but because they're such different players.
But he had every opportunity to bench Bouchard and wouldn't. But first opportunity, he puts Howard's ass on the bench. Nice job. That's showing him.
I didn't notice that he had benched him. This game didn't hold my attention with like I was watching it intently, but
that's understandable.
It was, yeah. So I really think Howard has something that you can't teach. He's like Roslovic. He could be a Roslovic. He has great offensive instincts and offensive skills. He strikes me as a better attacker than Matt Savoy. And so he might have a higher ceiling than Matt Savoy because of that. But he's got to get his work rate going. He's got to get ice time. There's nothing wrong with how he's played. He's actually played well.
Yep.
He hasn't been a liability on defense, just like Roslovic hasn't been.
No, agreed. But he just played 7 minutes again tonight.
Yeah, he hasn't, but he didn't get the push, let's say, that Tomasic got.
Nope.
He got one game on the top line with McDavid, and he didn't do well. And then, like so many other players haven't done well this year in that same edition. So, he should be in the minors and I don't know if I don't think they have agreements with players but he's had a little taste of the NHL here, and now he can build on that. He can go down to the minors, and he can see if he can be like a point a game player or a 0.8 a game player. That's what he's got to be. If he's going to be a top 6 NHL player, okay, show us in the AHL that you can put up a point a game. Let's see if you can do that or come close. Like Savoy was 0.8 a game probably last year, close to that. So let's see if Ike Howard can do that this year. And if he does, and he can do that, and maybe he'll I don't know if they use him on the PK down there or not, but maybe he'll get other opportunities. We'll see how he does.
Look, I think that if he got sent to the NHL, he can go there with his head held high. I mean, he did display a lot of good qualities. You're not sending him to the AHL to punish him. You're sending him down there to get his touches and to get lots of ice time so that he can come back up and be in an even better position to succeed. I really, truly believe that, and I really want it for the kid. So,
well, Kurt, my computer is about to die, so we better sign off.
Wrap it up, eh?
Battery power. Thanks for talking tonight, Kurt.
It's a pleasure.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.